So for our first episode on cyber physical security convergence, I wanted to bring in an expert on this topic. And I'm so happy to have Ter Govang join us today for our first guest speaker on our podcast. Ter Govang is a highly accomplished senior security executive with over 20 years of experience in STEM. She's a trusted advisor and a thought leader who drives security strategy for complex organizations. Ter is an empathetic, inclusive leader who instills critical thinking within teams and applies a structural approach towards sustainability and transformation. Her expertise has been recognized with numerous awards, and she frequently shares her knowledge at high-profile industry events. She holds several certifications, including ASIS Certified Protection Professional, ACMP Certified Change Management Professional, and ISC2 Certified Information Systems Security Professional. Her company, Portcullis Modern Inc, is a certified woman-owned enterprise, furthering client supplier diversity targets. With technical depth, executive communication skills, and proven implementation success, Ter is a valuable leader driving security excellence. So Ter, welcome to the Locked In on Security podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you. Happy to be here.
So we're going to get into, of course, cyber physical security convergence. And it's been around. The term has been around for a while now. We've been talking about it within the industry. But there's a lot of different definitions, I think, about what it is exactly or what it isn't. So I'd love to get your point of view about what you feel cyber physical security convergence is, and maybe a little bit about some of the driving forces behind it. What's making it become even more important today than we've seen before?
I'd say there are probably as many definitions for cyber physical convergence as there are ways to approach it. So it's sort of this elusive term that we're talking about and trying to do, but ultimately, we're still trying to work in siloed business departments or business units, with the cyber department doing one thing, physical doing another, and sort of trying to come along somewhere, maybe in some network approach together. I believe cyber physical convergence is really more on the business side, and how the coming to or the merging of these two domains can uplift, augment, and strengthen resilience for the corporation's overall assets, their information, their intelligence, and their people. So it's about bringing together two domains to holistically operate as one united force.
Mm-hmm. So it is, as you mentioned, a business approach. From your perspective, does technology come into play in terms of how those two domains, the cyber and the physical security, either talk to each other or integrate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, technology is really what the driving force was behind this for it to happen. You know, if we look back 20 years, that was really the introduction to intelligent protocol or IP communications. So before that, we were really in this analogous state of point to point. And so there wasn't convergence. There really couldn't have been. And then it was shortly after that when we started to see a type of convergence or an integration of sorts happening across physical security systems. And with the evolution and the advancements in technology, a greater opportunity has come for convergence to actually happen. And that can be with physical security into IT cyber departments or other disciplines like mechanical, electrical, lighting, and building automation systems. So technology was the caveat, but the different approaches are where I think it's really pushing it forward. All that said, though, technology is bringing these capabilities forward, but we also have to bring the people forward as well, and the mindset about how we approach these convergence opportunities, and the mindset about how we blend these domains and these disciplines together.
Well, that's a good point. And let's use that as a little bit of a segue in terms of talking about that mindset and that approach. You wrote a great article that was published by Security Journal Americas a few months back in June of this year. And it talked about a little bit of the new NIST publication. So for those who aren't familiar with NIST, that's the National Institute of Standards and Technology. And it released a revised special publication on cyber and physical security and a guide to operational technology security as well. First, can you just speak a little bit about this NIST publication? What was it trying to uncover and discuss, and what's its importance and relevance to our industry?
Whew, that's a loaded question. The thing that caught my eye about this publication from NIST in itself is that it's consumed or it absorbed or included physical access control systems as part of operational technology. That is great. I mean, arguably, PACS systems have always been OT. I mean, they control the environment, they monitor the environment. They are an operational technology, but they've been separate, siloed, segregated from the entire building. So to see PACS be considered as part of OT, I thought this is great. There's finally a way to streamline for convergence here by bringing it together. What does this look like? So I read the incredibly riveting 300-page cybersecurity framework and thought, okay, this is happening, this is coming. And we're seeing, call it what you will, but we're seeing a greater convergence happening between physical security and IT cyber departments. So I mean, one way you can look at it is that IT cyber are taking over physical access control systems or enterprise security systems. Like it or not, it's happening. Is it happening in the right ways? Not really. I mean, we're seeing systems that are being designed that just don't make a lot of sense when it comes to actual, corporate security methods or the way things have traditionally been done. So I thought this is a good opportunity to educate non-technical security leaders, either in the IT, cyber, physical realms, and to educate the CEOs and the chief operating officers, because as the special publication points out, CEOs and COOs have the ultimate responsibility and accountability for the security of their organizational assets. So we can't say, hands off, I didn't know, that's the responsibility of my security X department. So we need to really have a coming together where each discipline can understand and begin to learn one another's domains. The fact that it was the first time gives a lot of opportunity to do it the right way out of the gate. And it was really important that I wrote the article to help people understand it more. One of the driving kind of the thing that pushed me to do it was speaking with a client, because this client, their IT department manages their cameras. And when I mentioned the NIST standard, they thought, oh, great, another reason for them to come for the other systems. And said, well, not actually. This is what it means. And here's how you can work together to better support one another, because your team, physical security specialists, have expertise that they do not. So if we're trying to do more with less, how can we capitalize upon that and maybe offload some of the functions that may be better served by an IT department?
Really, really compelling, because there's a few things out of that. One, the idea that the CEO is ultimately responsible for security. We see that specifically on the cyber side and breaches that we see on the IT side. Obviously, the cost of that, both reputational as well as the brand cost, as well as the actual organizational cost. That responsibility lies with the CEO. But as things get converged, physical breaches and cyber breaches are kind of lumped into that. So there's as you mentioned off the bat, it's a business reason to care about these two things coming together. What's also interesting is the fact that you mentioned some of the cultural components of these two departments coming together. So there's a little bit of concern around IT owning or at least having a say in the physical security side of things. But you seem to be positioning this as a good opportunity for physical security as it relates to both the convergence with IT, but also on the OT side. Now, some people are in our audience that might be listening may not be familiar with the term OT or operational technology. Can you just help break that down a little bit? So what else falls under OT and then why does physical access control kind of make sense to fit there?
Yeah, so operational technology, that can be considered as really any technology that is within the building that helps the building function. So it could be like an industrial control system. It can be different intelligence monitoring systems. It can be anything to have to do with building logic and data information flow. You can have temperature sensors, water sensors, things like that are operational technology. Physical security systems were always a sort of operational technology. We just weren't considered a part of it because we were so siloed and absent from building operations.
Yes. Yet we managed the operational sort of success of getting in and out of the building, which would be OT.
Yeah. And largely that's all we did. So why would we be at the table during these strategic discussions around security when we really did a great disservice to ourselves by just, positioning security systems as opening doors and provisioning access? The reality is all of the security systems and the intelligence and the analytics that comes from these incredibly sophisticated systems is such a tremendous business value, but we're keeping it to ourselves and not bringing it forward until honestly, sometimes it's too late when we have to do a post-mortem because there has been an incident, and that could have been a physical breach. It could have been a loss of asset or a loss of life.
I think that's so well said. It's something that I've been kind of touting over the last few years is that physical security, we're sitting on a treasure trove of data that is key to the success of the business. It provides so many insights, but we haven't been able to easily surface that data or do anything insightful around that. And convergence, one of the things of convergence that I believe is one of the biggest benefits is the data, is creating not only the insights, but sort of business value from physical security data that allows both a security department to align with the company vision and their goals. And it provides also, I think, just tremendous added value over simply opening and closing doors and keeping people safe. But it's also essentially adding to the bottom line. You're helping produce results at the bottom line, which is of course, important for physical security as we get into this new digital transformation, this new sort of connected world that all of us are a part of. But inevitably, all of these things coming together kind of muddles the water. And you already kind of hinted at sort of this, not confusion, but sort of this apprehension around responsibilities of the IT and cyber department and physical security and potentially some resistance that you may have seen from physical security as you deal with customers and you talk to them about their strategy. It seemed like some people may even interpret this as moving physical security completely under the domain of the cyber and the IT team. And that, of course, would suggest potentially that their roles are in jeopardy. Do you see it that way? And if people are kind of looking at it through this lens, how would you suggest that they kind of tackle this issue or this point of view in a way that's going to be helpful for them to be successful within their domain, but also grow and become part of the alignment with the organization?
The cybersecurity discipline has done a tremendous job of aligning itself with business value and, protection of assets, protection of information, safeguarding intellectual property. They understand the corporate risks and the impact that will have on the bottom line. Physical security we haven't done a great job in speaking, in relating in business terms. So I think that's really where we've not been able to maintain pace with the cyber departments, despite the respective pace of the industry growing at the same speed or similar speeds. But when we have a shift or a restructuring or a realignment of priorities, or there's a change that causes a disruption, there will be resistance, especially where that disrupts the status quo or our standard operating and ways of working, where there's a perceived power imbalance or a feeling of loss, whether that's loss of control, loss of revenue, loss of money, loss of even just feelings of loss. Those subjective losses come with great implications. So that is where a lot of resistance is going to stem from. Not because it's a bad choice for the business, but because there are feelings of loss that need to be addressed. In order to address those, we need to sit down and look at, okay, how is this impacting the business? What does this mean? How are we going to re-strategize and refocus our approach to protecting the organization? What does the corporate security strategy, how does that support the business long-term goals and objectives? If we can define that and figure that out, we're going to have a stronger sense of our purpose for the organization. We're going to have greater clarity and alignment on the overall corporate strategic plan, its mission, and its goals. We're going to be able to understand better the business units and their needs. And so then we can bring that together to be empowered when we are inevitably approached with, hey, we're going to converge these two departments and roll them together. Even if that doesn't happen, even if corporate security stays its own business unit, that's great. You still need to learn how to work together. You still need to understand what that cross-pollination looks like and how to leverage the respective resources to the best that you can. I mean, if you have the resources there, use them, work together and grow. Because as physical security technologies continue to advance, like we have AI, machine learning, deep learning, quantum learning, that's not coming, that's here. That has outpaced many physical security departments. So where can we upskill our people and where can we reassign to reprovision?
Yeah, really well said. And love for those listening or watching, drop a comment. How are you collaborating with your counterparts, whether you're on the IT side or on the physical side? What are you proactively doing to collaborate? How are you making that happen on a sort of an intentional and purposeful, consistent basis? We talk about, of course, as we look at the headlines with cybersecurity and IT, we see the headlines on breaches and issues that are happening on a consistent basis. But a lot of times when you dive in, there's a lot of vulnerabilities around sort of these end devices, these IoT units, the legacy systems. Many times we see the folks that are most vulnerable have not been updating their systems on a consistent basis. Those vulnerabilities definitely play into the physical security side as well. How about you give us a little bit of a sense of how protecting physical security from cyber threats is also a component of convergence and that something that our physical security industry needs to take into account a little bit more as a priority?
That's really what keeps me up at night. Legacy technology that hasn't been maintained is a significant security risk in of itself. So when we are bringing outdated technologies or outdated protocols or anything that hasn't even been doing its firmware updates, that needs to be flagged. It needs to be documented. And, if you are approved to proceed, great, at least you're aware. But when we're bringing these legacy or even antiquated technologies into a converged environment, there needs to be a plan to protect and mitigate in the event of an incident. In the cyber sense, we see breaches happen all the time through physical security systems or through HVAC systems. And, we probably have a few of them coming to mind right now. Physical security system is not immune from this. And there are significant breaches happening all the time. Even just last week or 2 weeks ago, it was put out in the news that there's, access cards are still being breached. And if you dig deep, we knew that. That's classic technology. Yeah, the old news, but most people aren't aware. So it's important to have a thorough evaluation done of your current state as part of those transition plans. That way it's accounted for, it's planned for, and we're not going to, be blindsided by something happening down the road. For the physical environment experiencing breaches, people are getting smarter. There is more insider risk happening. There are bad actors inside organizations. So to be able to leverage the intelligence from these systems to understand, if is somebody here when they're not supposed to be, is someone trying to get into places where they ought not to be. Even protecting our logical devices, like your printers, like your phones, like your computers and boardroom equipment, to know who's in there. Are they supposed to be using it? There can be a naivety around that. We want to believe that the people working with us in our organizations are good people. We've done our background checks, but that's really just not the case. So I'd say it's especially important for physical and cybersecurity to work together in those means so that they can alert one another when something is going awry. Or even if you do work in a more industrialized environment and you have areas that requires certain certifications or safety clearances or security clearances to be able to access those environments, how can you work with your converged team so that you can leverage the physical network data and your logical network data to have more comprehensive analysis of what's really going on? As a cybersecurity expert, we're not a physical security expert. So having a physical security expert in the room at the table reviewing the information at the same time together, each person will be able to pick up on something that the other had completely missed just by lack of awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Ter, I'm a huge fan. I'm so happy you're able to share your point of view here on the podcast and for people to be able to hear from you. Tell us a little bit about how people can find you, a little bit about your company, Portcullis Modern.
You can find me on LinkedIn at Ter Govang or on my website, portcullismodern.com. Portcullis is the gate that protects the castle. So a bit of a metaphor there.
Well done, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I will be at GSX in Orlando, and I am speaking on Tuesday at 2 p.m. So for those going, I would love to see them come and speak with them in person. But for a call to action, this is a nuanced approach. And anytime there is a change that disrupts systems or disrupts people, we need to manage that effectively. And the best way to do that is to be proactive. Preparedness is our best defense. So if you're thinking that this convergence could be coming to you eventually, if not now, I'd say reach out to me and let's put together a strategy for at least your corporate security department so that you're prepared, you're positioned, and you're able to articulate the value to your company.
Well said. We will put your article and we'll list it in a link in the comments. We'll add any resources as well that you might suggest and make sure people are up to date. And again, we'd love to hear from you in your comments. Drop a comment. You can reach Ter directly as well. We'll have her contact information. So thanks once again, and we'll see you at GSX.
Yes, see you there. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Share this episode with your network and engage with us in the comments below. We'll catch you on the next episode.